I buried the man I loved, but I couldn't bury what he left me. Not after I opened that envelope. Not after I saw his handwriting and what it told me to do. The letter changed everything. Let me ask you something real quick before we start. If the person you loved most told you to speak to the one person you've always had doubts about, would you do it? Comment yes or no. And while you're here, hit that subscribe. This story gets deep, and trust me, you're going to want to stay for the ending. Also, drop your city or country in the comments. I want to know how far this truth is reaching. My name's Macy Tucker, and this isn't the story I thought I'd ever be telling. I used to think my life was kind of boring, to be honest. I married the quiet guy, the sweet one. Alaric Anthony. He wore sweaters even in summer, smelled like cedarwood and vanilla, and smiled with his eyes way before people said that on social media. He was a teacher. Kids loved him. Parents trusted him. I adored him. But love doesn't always mean you know someone, and sometimes the pieces don't fall apart loudly. They just drift, quietly, like dust settling in corners you stopped looking at. We were together for 12 years, married for 7. And yeah, we had problems. What couple doesn't? He got quiet around year 5, not cruel, not distant in a dramatic way, but off. You know when you walk into a room and someone's already left emotionally? That's how it started. He'd hold me, but his mind was somewhere else. He'd laugh, but there was something hollow behind it. He'd stay late at work. Stop answering mid-conversation. I'd ask if something was wrong, and he'd smile and say, "You worry too much, Mace." That phrase used to comfort me, until it didn't. Then one morning, he collapsed in our kitchen. Aneurysm. No warning. No time. 1 minute he was making coffee. The next, he was gone. Just like that. The days after were a blur. I don't even remember the funeral that well. I remember the sound of his mother sobbing, the way the pastor mispronounced his middle name, the flowers wilted on top of his casket too soon. I was numb, and everyone kept telling me, "You'll find peace in time." But peace didn't come. Instead, what came was a letter. It was 6 days after I buried him. I was going through his things, not ready to throw anything out, just touching stuff to feel close to him again. That's when I found his leather-bound journal. He always wrote in it, usually doodles or half-finished lesson plans. I never opened it while he was alive, but that day, it fell open. And there it was, folded in thirds, with my name on the front in his handwriting. It was dated 2 weeks before he died. The first line, "If you're reading this, I'm gone." I sat on the floor of our bedroom for hours before I could read the rest. I thought maybe it'd be sweet. A love note, a goodbye, something poetic to hold on to. But no, it wasn't a love letter. It was a map to something broken. He wrote about guilt, about secrets he never had the courage to speak. He said he didn't want to leave the world with lies between us. But then, he stopped. The letter cut itself off in the middle of a sentence. And instead of finishing, he wrote one instruction. Just one. Talk to Ariella Knox. Ask her what I couldn't tell you. That's it. That was the last thing my husband ever asked me to do. Talk to his best friend. The woman I always had a weird feeling about, but never voiced it. The woman who gave him long hugs and called him Ricky, when everyone else used his full name. The woman who'd been in our wedding photos, helped me plan our baby shower back when I had a miscarriage, and sat next to me at the hospital. Ariella Knox. I sat there holding the letter like it was burning my hands. He wanted me to go to her? After everything? What was she supposed to tell me? What couldn't he? And why did I already feel like I knew, but didn't want it confirmed? She knew something, and I had to find out. You never sit across from someone and realize they know something you don't, and they're just waiting to see if you'll figure it out. That's how it felt being in front of Ariella Knox. I hadn't seen her since the funeral. She'd sent flowers, a card, even baked lemon bars like it was some PTA thing, but I hadn't looked at her. Not really. Now I was sitting in her apartment, same one she'd lived in for years. Cozy, neutral, no sign of chaos. She made tea, chamomile, like I needed to be soothed. I didn't want tea, I wanted the truth. I held Alaric's letter in my lap. The corners were worn from me folding and unfolding it 100 times. I didn't hand it to her. I didn't need to. I just said, "He told me to talk to you." She blinked, just once, just enough. And then, she sat down across from me like she'd been waiting for this. She started slowly, small talk. "He loved you so much. You were everything to him, he was just confused. That's when I stopped her. You and my husband were confused? And she froze. Because I said it like I knew. Because deep down, I did. Look, I don't know when it started. Maybe it was one night, maybe it was a year. But there was a version of my marriage I didn't know existed, and she was sitting across from me now, biting her lip like she was the one in mourning. And then she said it. Not in a loud, dramatic way, not through tears or with guilt in her voice. She said it like it was a fact, like we were reviewing receipts. It happened. I won't insult you by lying. Just like that. I asked her how long. She said 2 years. 2 years. While I was planning our anniversary trips, while we were going to fertility clinics, while he was holding me in bed whispering, "We'll figure this out together," he was also holding her, telling her God knows what. Have you ever felt your face get hot from the inside out? I didn't cry. Not then. I couldn't. My body was too focused on not flipping that table or walking out and never coming back. But I stayed. Because I needed to know. Why? Ariella said it started one night, when Alaric came to her after a fight we had. She said it was innocent at first. He just needed someone to talk to. Someone who understood how much pressure he was under. And somehow that turned into weekends away for work retreats, late-night grading sessions, secret hotel receipts I never thought to check. I told her something that I don't think she expected. I don't care about the sex. I care about the lies. And I meant it, because betrayal doesn't always show up naked. Sometimes it walks in the door with your favorite takeout and kisses you like everything's fine. Ariella said she tried to end it multiple times, but Alaric kept coming back. He'd cry, say he didn't want to hurt me, but he couldn't. Torn. I almost laughed. Torn is a man stuck between 2 job offers. Torn is trying to decide what couch to buy. What did Alaric do? That was a choice. Repeated, deliberate, hidden, and the worst part? She didn't even sound proud or apologetic. She sounded exhausted. Like the affair drained her too. I left her apartment with the taste of chamomile and betrayal in my mouth. But as I walked out, she stopped me at the door. She said, "He never stopped loving you." And that almost broke me. Because maybe it was true. Maybe he did love me, but he loved himself more. He never stopped loving you, but he loved himself more. You know how people say, the dead can't hurt you? Whoever made that up never had someone die with a secret. A week after I saw Ariella, I went back into the closet to box up more of Alaric's things. That's when I found his other journal. Not the one with the letter. This one was smaller, thicker, and hidden in a shoebox with old receipts and a broken Fitbit. It wasn't dated, no Dear Diary entries, just moments, captions, scribbled thoughts, and photos. So many photos. The first one looked innocent enough, Alaric and Ariella at a staff party, smiling, champagne glasses, name tags, but then the next photo, they were in a hotel room. Not a selfie, not a group shot. He took it from her, sleeping, bare-shouldered, wrapped in sheets that weren't ours. That's when my hand started shaking. I wasn't holding a journal, I was holding a confession. There were notes too, not written to her, but clearly about her. She sees me. In a way, Macy stopped trying to. I wish I didn't love her like this, but I do. Macy's tired. She doesn't laugh like she used to. I don't know how to fix that without breaking everything. I read those words on the bedroom floor, surrounded by all the life we built together, wedding photo on the wall. Our dog's leash by the door. The mug I gave him for Christmas is still sitting on his nightstand like a goddamn trophy of pretending. Have you ever sat in your own house and felt like a guest? Like the version of your life you believed in was staged? That's what grief does when it's tied to betrayal. It doesn't just ache, it echoes. I could have burned the journal, I almost did. I held it over the sink and lit a match. But then I saw something scribbled at the back. Just one word. Over and over. Pressed so hard it nearly tore through the page. Forgive me. Forgive me. Forgive me. And I didn't know who he meant. Me? God? Ariella? All I knew was he never asked for it while he was alive. Only after he couldn't face me anymore. People say the truth sets you free. No, it just changes the size of your cage. I didn't eat that night. I didn't sleep either. I lay in bed wondering how long I'd been living with a man who had 2 lives and 1 conscience. Wondering if he was ever going to tell me. And if he hadn't died, would I still be in the dark? And here's what really gut-punched me. One of the photos showed him at a cabin I didn't recognize. There was snow on the porch, a fire pit in the back, and a pair of matching mugs sitting on the railing. I zoomed in on the mug. It said Ari. So not only did he take her away, he took our traditions, our winter trips, our weekend getaways, and gave them to her. Wrapped them in a new setting. I called it love, and I was supposed to just move on? No. I needed answers, and not the sorry kind, not the we never meant to hurt you kind. I needed the kind that made Ariella look me in the eye and tell me who I was married to. Because clearly, I didn't know. He wrote forgive me, but never asked to my face. People like to talk about closure like it's this tidy little gift you get to unwrap once the pain's done. But here's the truth. Closure isn't something you find. It's something you drag out of someone else's silence. And Ariella? She still hadn't told me the full story. Not even close. I showed up at her apartment with the photos. No text, no warning. I was done waiting. She opened the door in sweatpants, no makeup, glassy-eyed like she hadn't slept either. Good. Let her lose sleep over him too. I didn't waste time. I just held the journal up and said, "Tell me how long it went on." She stared at it like it was bleeding. Then she stepped aside and let me in. The second the door shut, she broke. "I told him to stop," she whispered, so many times. But he kept saying he couldn't, and I didn't want to ruin everything. You didn't want to ruin everything? You were everything, Ariella. I didn't mean to yell, but I wasn't just angry. I was wounded. She sat on the couch. I stayed standing. I couldn't sit, couldn't breathe right. I asked again, how long? And this time she said it, almost 2 years. 2 years, that's 24 months, 104 weeks, over 700 days, of knowing, of lying, of watching me show up at their barbecues, birthdays, holidays, smiling, handing her wine, hugging her like she was family. And all that time, she was sleeping with my husband. I asked her the one question that burned the most. Did you love him? She nodded, like a coward. No words, just that. I felt the walls move. I swear I did. And then she looked up at me and said something that stopped everything cold. He was going to leave you. It felt like someone snapped a rubber band across my chest. He told me he was getting his own place, she said. That he just needed time to figure out how to tell you without breaking your heart. I laughed. Actually, I laughed. He didn't want to break my heart. He was screwing you for 2 years. And that was his concern? But she kept going. She said he'd ended things with her 3 months before he died, said he got cold feet, said he realized he couldn't actually go through with it. And then? He ghosted her. He told me you were sick, she said. That you'd been through too much, that he owed you more than just walking away. So he stayed with me. Not because he chose me, but because he felt guilty. That was worse than any betrayal, knowing I'd become some kind of moral debt he was paying down. Not a wife, a consequence. Then Ariella started crying. I wanted him to choose me, she said. But in the end, he didn't choose either of us. He just left. And I looked at her. Not with hate, but with pity. Because she thought she had something real. And I thought I had something whole. Turns out we both had pieces of a man who never gave himself fully to anyone. I stood up. She tried to hug me. I stepped back. I hope you heal, but you're not part of mine. Then I walked out, and for the first time since he died, I didn't cry. I just breathed. He didn't choose either of us. He just left. You don't always get justice. Sometimes all you get is a quieter mind. And after that day in Ariella's apartment, my mind finally shut up. I stopped asking why. I stopped replaying every birthday, every late night, every perfume scent on his jacket that didn't belong to me. I stopped trying to make sense of a man who loved 2 women and told the truth to neither. I just let it all burn, and stood in the ashes. But you know what really broke me? What really healed me? It was what I found after all of it. It was what he left me. Not in a will, not in the letter, not in the bank account, but in a shoebox. Hidden behind our wedding album. Taped shut. Inside were Polaroids of us, from our first year of marriage. Sticky notes on the backs. Little captions like, she smiled like this when she said yes. God, I hope I don't screw this up. This is the only place I've ever felt safe. He'd kept them, for years, and written on them like a man who was in love, like a man who wanted to remember. And in the very back, folded, wrinkled, but still legible, was another letter, one he hadn't meant for me to find, maybe ever. Mace, I never deserved you, but I wanted to. every single day. If I stayed, it was because I couldn't leave the best thing that ever happened to me. If I strayed, it was because I didn't know how to be a man worthy of the love you gave me so easily. You were my first peace, and my deepest shame. I wish I could undo it. I wish I could meet you now, in another life, where I don't mess everything up, where I walk past Ariella and don't look back. But this is the one we got, and I'm sorry for breaking it. That letter didn't fix anything. But it made one thing clear. He knew. He regretted it. He tried. And even though I'd never get to look him in the eye again, or hear him say it, that letter was the closest I'd ever come to forgiveness. Not for him. For me. For staying too long. For not seeing it sooner. For blaming myself. For still loving him even now, even after the truth cut through every memory we made. So here's what I did. I bought a new journal. Leather-bound. Just like his. And I wrote my first entry. Dear Macy, you're not what happened to you. You're who you chose to become afterward. Then I booked a solo trip. No destination in mind, just forward. If you're watching this and you've ever been lied to, if you've ever had your whole life cracked open by someone you trusted, comment yes below, or no if you've been lucky. But either way, subscribe, because I've got more stories like this, and I'm not telling them about the drama. I'm telling them so you know you're not alone. Forgiveness doesn't mean staying. It means choosing yourself.